Discover the amazing twist how a bully's shocking act uncovered a hidden mafia legacy. On an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, Alex Martinez stood before his locker, feeling the weight of what tomorrow might bring. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, highlighting the scuffs on his sneakers and the frayed edges of his backpack. Life in the suburbs often felt like a bad soap opera, and he was tired of being an unwitting actor in Jake's cruel production. Jake's schoolyard reign was a constant reminder of what it meant to feel powerless. Every shove, every sneer, a vivid slap to his ambitions. But what if Jake stumbled upon something that could shift that power? As Alex fumbled with his lock and its stubborn mechanism, nostalgia tugged at him. He remembered the stories his mother told, tales of resilience and hard work. She dedicated her life to giving him opportunities, even as she scrapped for every dollar. But here, faced with his tormentor, Alex battled feelings of anger and desperation. This was his moment to confront Jake, to thread his insecurities with defiance, yet doubt simmered beneath the surface. Would he stand up for himself, or remain a ghost in the shadows? Just then, Jake's rough laughter echoed through the hallway, followed by the thud of sneakers against tile. Alex flinched, heart racing. In a split second of reckless impulse, he swung the locker open, hoping to find something beyond mundane textbooks, something to ease his impending confrontation. Instead, he discovered an old, crumpled note. The faint smell of musty paper hit his nostrils as he pulled it out, and a sense of dread settled in. What secrets did it hold? "Look what we have here," Jake taunted, appearing from nowhere, shadow towering over him. The locker door swung wide as Jake's hand snatched the note from Alex's grasp, revealing the words scrawled in a hurried script. "A diary? You're really digging deep, huh?" Alex's pulse quickened, a cocktail of fear and fury bubbling within him. The note, imbued with family history, felt like ammunition in the hands of someone who wouldn't hesitate to use it. Staring at the paper in Jake's hand, he felt that familiar bitterness rise. This wasn't just about him anymore. Their family's fates were intertwined in ways he had never foreseen. "Seems like your grandpa wasn't just a nice old man," Jake sneered, unfolding the paper. "What's this about the mob, Alex? You hiding something from us?" He wanted to scream, to shove Jake back and reclaim what was his. But as the sunlight slanted through the hallway windows, Alex paused, realizing that reacting in anger would only secure his place as the underdog. Should he use this discovery to humiliate Jake in front of everyone? The same humiliation he had endured for years? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow.
If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Alex's mind raced as he considered a new path, one where he could confront the truth about his family without becoming what he hated. The enforced decision between vengeance or something more just loomed large, constricting his breathing. The newfound connection to Jake rattled him. They were bound by lineage, both prisoner to histories that sought to define them. What if they could break the cycle? 1,000 questions filled him. The weight of legacy pressed heavily against his chest. Gritting his teeth, Alex raised his hand, standing before a gathering crowd of students, the tension thick and palpable. Would he unveil the darkness hidden in their pasts, or grasp the possibility of a different future? The air hummed with anticipation, silence holding its breath as he prepared to speak, the choice on the cusp of his lips, an echo of his struggle hanging just out of reach, threatening to pull them both into a spiral of chaos. The moment stretched unbearably, the crowd's collective breath a silent condemnation or a desperate hope. Alex felt the weight of their gazes, mirrored in the amped-up thudding of his heart. Jake's smirk only fueled the fire inside him, pushing him towards an epiphany about his own worth. He could feel the pulse of their intertwined fates, the chaotic web of their histories drawing tighter. Suddenly, clarity struck. This wasn't merely a chance to counter Jake's bullying. It was an opportunity to reclaim his narrative, his power. If his family's history was tangled with danger and defiance, maybe it was time to channel that into something productive. Embracing memories of his mother's resilience, Alex steadied his voice, banking on the strength that surged through him. "Jake," he began, forcing himself to look into his tormentor's eyes, determination settling over him like armor. "My grandfather's past doesn't define me. It's a part of my family's story. There are lessons buried in it, lessons you could never fathom." Murmurs erupted from the crowd, disbelief etched across their faces. Did Alex Martinez really just challenge the reigning bully? For every sneer Jake bestowed upon him, he was ready now to reclaim his dignity. "I'm not hiding anything,"
My history isn't just about crime. It's a story of survival, Alex pressed on, intensity igniting in his tone. What have you ever done except follow the fragile code of your own insecurities? You think this note gives you power, but all it reveals is that you're terrified of someone who refuses to be silent. The air shifted, as if the universe itself noted the shift in balance.
He could see the uncertainty flicker in Jake's eyes, a crack forming in the ruthless facade. It wasn't validation Alex sought, it was empowerment, struggle transformed into strength. He recognized this as his turning point. Each carefully chosen word pushed the boundaries of his identity further, reframing the narrative about who he was and what he could achieve. Jake's bravado melted slightly, and Alex sensed the crowd inch closer, drawn to the uncommon courage unfolding before them. It was exhilarating and terrifying. This newfound clarity was illuminating, exposing the shadows of doubt that had long held him captive. The whispers turned into a hum of solidarity. Differing reactions from his peers painted the gray canvas of judgment surrounding them. In that moment, Alex realized that the path ahead wasn't just about confronting Jake, but also about confronting himself. He would define his legacy, not only for the audience in front of him, but also for the silent voices within. Facing the mob legacy embedded in his family, he conceived a plan to honor the resilience of his forebears while establishing his own point of departure. He could hear the internal shuffling, the questions that pestered his peers, echoing the ones he struggled with. Could he fully break away from the shadows of his family's turmoil? Could he reshape the branches of his lineage into a form of legacy he could be proud of? After all, Alex continued, gaining momentum, why not choose to rise? Why not choose to fight for something better than street cred or a fleeting reputation? I'm not chasing after your twisted view of power, Jake. I'll create my own. As the words hung palpably in the air, Jake's grip on the note loosened, a flicker of vulnerability flickering across his face. It was a raw moment, filled with possibility and tension, revealing the uncertainty of how this confrontation would resolve. Alex perceived this as the beginning, not just of a battle against Jake, but as a fierce reclamation of his own story. As he caught his breath, seizing the moment, he pondered the next question that would solidify his identity. What would it take to turn this confrontation into meaningful change for himself, and perhaps even for Jake? The air thrummed in anticipation, and with uncertainty mingling with ambition, he felt the first catalysts of transformation coming to life in chaotic harmony. Would stepping into this power allow him to reshape the trajectory of their shared legacy? The moment hung like a suspended film, each second stretched into eternity under the weight of possibility. Alex could feel the gravity of his words reverberating through the crowd, shaking the foundation of the confrontation and calling forth something deep from within. This was no longer just a duel of wills. It had morphed into a crucible, forcing him to face every choice he had ever made. He noticed the shift in Jake. The smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty that sparked a surge of unexpected confidence in Alex. It was as if for the first time he could see a glimmer of vulnerability in Jake's eyes, mirroring his own tumultuous feelings beneath the surface. While he had always felt the weight of his family's history, he began to understand that the depths of that legacy weren't solely a source of shame. They also had the potential to forge a new identity, one that he could proudly hold onto, a bridge between the past's turmoil and a promising future. Alex took a step back, regaining his composure. He could feel the murmur of peers resonating around him, a mix of awe and disbelief, helping to clarify his purpose. With each heartbeat, his initial belligerence transformed into something calculated and meaningful. He wanted this moment to serve as a testament, not merely against Jake, but as his declaration of independence. "Your power is an illusion, Jake," he said, voice steady, steel reinforcing his pride. "You hide behind your reputation, yet here we are, standing in front of each other, exposed. I'd rather be authentic than wear your disguise." The challenge hung thick in the air, and he saw a shift in the audience's gaze, like embers catching flame. Becoming acutely aware of the brethren of souls watching, Alex realized it was his chance to nurture cohesion among those onlookers, elevating their individual stories into a collective awakening. "You see," he continued, allowing himself to explore new facets of his voice, "true strength lies in vulnerability. Facing our backgrounds isn't a weakness, it's a path to understanding, to growth." His thoughts raced,
unraveling the complexities he had previously shied away from. The shame tethering him to his family's mistakes could instead transform into a launching point for new narratives. He considered the possibility of approaching Jake with a different strategy, one that transcended rivalry. What if he could reach into Jake's own insecurities, connect on a deeper level, and perhaps incite a change within? The idea settled over him, like a viral thought spreading in a still room, and he pushed against the possibility, allowing it to evolve. "Why don't we shift this from a face-off to an alliance?" Alex suggested, watching for signs of reactions from both Jake and the crowd. "There's power in shared struggles. What if we found a way to channel our pasts into something better, you and me, working together to reshape the story?" The notion hung in the air, and for a brief moment, Alex allowed himself to hope that maybe Jake too needed to reclaim something, an understanding that this dance of animosity could emerge into partnership, a stepping stone for both. His heart raced as he wondered, who would he be if he chose to mend rather than confront?
Jake's brow furrowed, his initial thrust of bravado diminishing as Alex's suggestions settled like a challenge, and with it came uncertainty. What would happen next? As Alex observed the undercurrents of change, he could feel the moment steering toward an unpredictable resolution. Would Jake reject this unexpected opportunity for growth, or would he find within himself the strength to break free from the cycle of hatred? The uncertainty gripped Alex fiercely, turning his introspection into anticipation. He stepped forward, ready to learn where this new path might lead. A confrontation not just rooted in their intertwined histories, but also charting a course for reconciliatory futures. As the crowd remained entranced, murmurs fading into silence, the question loomed. Had he unlocked a part of Jake that could lead to understanding, or was he merely setting himself up for another round of pain? Either way, Alex knew this was just the beginning of an unforeseen journey. The air shimmered with tension as he waited for Jake's response, knowing that it would determine the shape of the legacy they each would bear. Jake's silence felt like a brick wall, solid and impenetrable. The crowd's collective breath was held, their anticipation a tangible force that pressed down on Alex. He had thrown down the gauntlet, only to wonder if he had miscalculated the moment. What if this was a step too far? He felt the pang of uncertainty creeping in, clawing at his resolve. Suddenly, Jake's expression shifted. The uncertainty morphed into something sharper, a fragile line of possibility that wavered on the edge of defiance and curiosity. "What are you playing at, Alex?" Rather than rejecting the offer outright, his tone was inquisitive rather than hostile. This small crack in Jake's armor ignited a flicker of hope deep within Alex. "I'm saying we're more than our pasts, more than what we inherited from our families," Alex replied, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside. With each passing second, he weighed his words, forming the foundation for a new possibility. "We can create a narrative that empowers us, rather than chains us to what's always been expected." Jake regarded him with a brief flicker of something akin to respect, or was it confusion? It was a subtle shift, but Alex recognized it. They were standing on the precipice of something transformative, yet it was precarious. He knew he had to be proactive, push further, and give voice to this newfound connection, or risk losing it entirely. "What would that even look like?" Jake asked, arms crossed, but his posture had softened. This was not just defiance. It felt like a negotiation, a chance to draw Jake out from the shadows of bravado. "We start by acknowledging the hurt." Alex waved his arms towards the gathering, where faces reflected years of fraught history, whispered judgments, and broken connections. "You and I, everyone here, we've been molded by forces larger than ourselves." Why not harness that experience? Use it to lift ourselves up instead of tearing each other down? Jake's brow furrowed again, but this time there was thoughtfulness instead of disdain. "You think I want to tear you down? Maybe you do, or maybe that's what you believe you have to do. I've been there." The admission hung in the air, sharp and true, piercing through the previous enmity. "But I'm not that person anymore. I'm choosing to be different, to be better. Maybe it's time we both face the truth of that fight." As the air pulsed with tension, Alex felt the words spilling from his lips like a torrent. There was something candid, almost cathartic, in addressing his own vulnerabilities. "I made mistakes, Jake. I hurt people. But I want to face it. I want a change. What's stopping you?" Summoning every ounce of courage, he extended his hand. The gesture surprised even himself. It was one thing to confront Jake, to challenge him. It was another to invite him into a space of potential collaboration. A chill skittered through the crowd as all eyes shifted between them, the pulse of their collective heartbeat quickening at this unexpected turn. But Jake hesitated. "I don't need your pity." His voice was strained, as if the very idea of acceptance threatened to shatter the armor he wore so tightly. "It's not pity, it's a choice," Alex insisted, his heart pounding. Carefully, he added, "one we can make together." The thought of joining forces broke against the backdrop of years spent bickering like competitive yet unyielding opponents. For a moment, the world narrowed to the two of them.
Alex could feel the undercurrent of fear in Jake, the anxiety of confronting his demons, all too familiar. Would he dare step into the open, exposing his vulnerabilities and emerging with transparency? In that moment of silence, a realization sparked within Alex. This was deeper than rivalry. It was a psyche filled with the expectations of family and community playing out before them. Becoming allies wasn't about erasing their histories, but transforming them, wielding the lessons learned like shields against societal judgment. Before the silence could engulf them any further, Alex felt a rush of urgency. Jake, think about it. We can either allow our pasts to dictate our futures, or we can rewrite them together. As he spoke, Alex sensed the atmosphere shifting once more, heavy with unspoken choices. Would Jake finally step forward, or would he retreat back behind the walls he had built so high? With the balance of momentum teetering precariously in the air, Alex felt he was on the brink of something monumental. The crowd around them remained breathless, yet the electric pull of potential crackled louder than before. Jake opened his mouth, and Alex held his breath, heart racing. Would he step towards change or cling to the shadows? The moment loomed impossibly large, and with it, Alex realized whatever Jake decided, his own journey had irrevocably transformed.
The question, however, lingered in the air, sharp and potent. What legacy would they forge, and would it bind them or break them? The silence hung in the air like a sharp intention wire, ready to snap under the weight of choice. Alex's heart raced as Jake's eyes flickered with something deeper, a tumult of emotions that both thrilled and terrified him. He had reached into the darkness of their shared bitterness, but would Jake reciprocate or pull back? Jake glanced away, uncertainty ghosting across his features. Alex felt a knot twist in his stomach. This moment was as much about Jake's journey as it was his own. Could they carve a new path, or were they forever destined to remain adversaries bound by their painful pasts? In that fleeting moment of vulnerability, Alex did something he hadn't fully grasped he was capable of. He began to examine his own resolve. A fleeting memory surfaced of the boy he had been, entirely consumed by insecurities and a desperate need for validation. The arrogant bravado he'd maintained as a defense had slowly revealed itself as a mask. Every confrontation with Jake had been a futile attempt to assert his worth. But here, now, before a crowd that was not just an audience, but a reflection of their collective experience, he felt an odd sense of clarity. "Jake, I am tired of living in the shadow of who I was," Alex voiced, his tone steady. He had to own this, harness the power of his revelation. Jake seemed struck, his momentarily softened demeanor shifting back into guardedness. "You think I've been living in peace?" he shot back, a hint of bitterness lacing his words. The crack in his armor was closing. "You don't know what I faced." "Then let's share our stories," Alex rallied, adrenaline sparking through him. "What good is a story untold? What legacy can we forge if we keep everything locked away? We owe it to ourselves to shed the chains worn too long." With those words, Alex stepped closer, blurring the line that had always separated them. His personal journey became intertwined with the choice he was laying before Jake. This was more than just a challenge, it was an invitation to heal. Yet with each heartbeat, he feared rejection. Suddenly, a wave of bravado washed over Jake, but it was laced with something more, fear. "Why do you want this?" Jake asked, his stare unnaturally intense, as if he were measuring not just Alex but the weight of his intentions. "Because I've lost too much fighting battles that don't define me anymore," Alex replied, letting the words resonate. "I need to believe there's strength in vulnerability. In embracing the past, we can let go of its grip." The crowd had shifted between them, a breath of shared humanity. Each face reflected a spectrum of experiences, doubts, and hopes. Alex saw himself within them, and in this moment he understood how far he had come. This was not merely a confrontation, it was a critical juncture, both personally and professionally. But Jake stood unmoving, caught in the struggle between pride and the vulnerability Alex had exposed. "You think this gung-ho idea will work?" Alex seized the opportunity, a flicker of resolve ignited inside him. "It might not be easy, but I'm willing to try. Are you?" Jake's hesitation persisted, but Alex saw a glimpse of understanding beneath his bravado. It was the softness of shared struggles edging into view, and with it, a realization bloomed, a possibility to redefine themselves through collaboration rather than conflict. However, just as the atmosphere thickened with hope, Jake flicked his gaze downward. The moment was fragile, and Alex sensed it could evaporate. He needed to act decisively, to solidify this connection, or risk losing the chance entirely. "Jake," he murmured, We've both been wronged, and we've both wronged others. But healing isn't a solo journey. If you take the first step, I promise to match it. For the first time, silence lingered for too long, and doubt seeped in from the edges. Was Alex's pledge strong enough to pull Jake out of his shell? Would vulnerability win over persona? As Jake lifted his gaze, Alex felt the weight of the moment. The next choice could forge an enduring alliance or widen their rift further. With that revelation, Alex braced himself for the possibility that everything hinged on a single moment, a single word. "All right, Alex, I'll consider it," Jake finally uttered, but his voice betrayed a wariness. As he turned slightly away, a glimmer of determination flickered across his face. And in that instant, beneath the weight of hope and uncertainty, Alex realized he had unlocked something deeper than he had anticipated. What would emerge from this fragile new alliance? And was Jake truly ready to confront both their legacies? With their unspoken truths hanging in the air, Alex felt a surge of urgency. The journey ahead promised to be filled with confrontation and self-discovery. Would they be brave enough to face the realities of their intertwined pasts? The questions loomed large as they stood on the cusp of transformation or disaster. The air crackled with an unspoken tension as Alex awaited Jake's response. Every heartbeat seemed to echo in the silence, a reminder that change hung just beyond reach. When Jake finally spoke, Alex had prepared himself for anything, yet the vulnerability in those few words shocked him. Alex sensed a fragile possibility shimmering between them, shimmering like a mirage. "What does that mean for us?" Jake asked, his face still masked, but eyes betrayed curiosity mingled with apprehension. Alex could see that Jake was grappling with the uncertainty not only of their shared past, but the potential of a new future. It was a pivotal moment in every sense. "We start by being honest," Alex said, the words tumbling out more confidently than he felt. "Let's trade our stories. You never know what could happen if we expose our struggles instead of hiding behind them."
Jake's brow furrowed, the skepticism etched deep. And what if revealing those stories makes things worse? What if all it does is dig up old wounds? Alex paused, weighing his next response. This wasn't just a challenge. It was an admission that they both needed to risk discomfort to move forward. There's a difference between pain that lingers in silence and the kind that can be transformed by understanding. Some wounds need fresh air to heal. Jake shook his head, but didn't retreat completely. It felt as if he was rallying beneath a wave of conflicting emotions. Alex sensed that every bit of Jake's bravado was unraveling, and in that moment, he focused on nurturing this sliver of connection he had fought too hard to build. "Remember when we used to compete?" Alex prodded, veering the conversation to familiar ground. "All those petty fights? They didn't mean anything in the grand scheme. It was just noise, wasn't it?" A fleeting smile crossed Jake's face before it was snuffed out. "Yeah, I suppose. But that noise was what I identified with. It was easier than facing other things." This was it. A breakthrough, small yet significant. Alex felt a swell of determination. Exactly. And maybe we've been clinging to that noise as our identity for too long. We can redefine ourselves. Together. Jake hesitated, but for once didn't fixate on the exit. "You believe that, don't you?" "I have to," Alex replied, feeling the weight of his own words. "I'm done being defined by the past. I'm tired of the anger, and I want to step into who I could be." He glanced briefly at the audience, recognizing that their journey stretched beyond mere animosity. It was an invitation for growth. The tension lifted slightly, revealing a sliver of hope before Jake shifted his weight, returning to guardedness. "How do we even start? What happens if this doesn't work?" "Then we'll know," Alex said simply, the clarity of his resolve guiding him. "But if we don't try, we'll remain trapped in a cycle neither of us truly wants. We owe it to ourselves to explore, don't we?" The silence stretched again, thick with raw possibilities. For Alex, it felt like a call to action, a call to both of them. The weight of a decision loomed high, and he could sense Jake deliberating. This internal battle was just as critical as the confrontation they had fought for. Suddenly, a thought sparked in Alex's mind. "Jake, tell me what you fear the most about this journey." Jake's expression hardened, but the flicker of truth stirred something deeper. "I fear that facing this, whatever it is, might expose more about me than I can handle. What if I can't live up to what I uncover?" "Then we face it," Alex declared, matching Jake's vulnerability with fierce determination. "Together, no more hiding behind bravado. We confront the fears, and in doing so, we find strength. I won't abandon you as you wrestle with that."
In that moment, Alex felt a shift within himself, as if a door swung open to deeper layers of his persona. There was something empowering about standing on the precipice of change and inviting someone else to join. This was not merely about dunking into uncertainties. It was an invitation for them both to uncover hidden strengths that lay dormant within. But just as this new chapter loomed, the fragility of the moment was palpable. Jake's jaw clenched, 1,000 thoughts reflected in the depths of his unreadable eyes. Would he step through that door, or would he retreat into the shadows? We have the chance to become more than who we've been, Alex pressed on, realizing this was not just about confrontation, but a deep commitment to growth. As Jake looked down, Alex felt the future teetering on the brink, desperate for Jake to choose the light instead of hiding in the familiar darkness. Would their collaboration lead to healing, or would the weight of their pasts forever entrap them? The air thickened with unasked questions, igniting a nagging sense that this was merely the beginning of an even more challenging journey. Uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud ready to burst. What would unfold next as they ventured into the heart of their entwined histories? Alex could feel his heart pounding, the palpable silence wrapping around him like a suffocating blanket. Jake's hesitation hung in the air, pregnant with potential outcomes. The heavy weight of their shared past loomed ominously between them, and Alex understood the risk they both faced if they chose to move forward. "Talk to me, Jake." The command felt firm but soft, a gentle nudge toward the uncharted territory they both needed to traverse. This is about uncovering the layers we've built up over the years. It's the only way to break free. Jake finally raised his gaze, a flicker of defiance gleaming in his eyes. "I spent so much time preparing for a fight, but now, what do I do with the vulnerability you expect of me? How do I confront my shortcomings?" The gravity of Jake's words resonated deeply within Alex. This wasn't a simple exchange. It was a pivotal moment of revelation for them both. You confront it by acknowledging it, by admitting that it exists. It's not about finding answers, but about allowing yourself to question why you've kept it hidden. Jake took a deep breath, his shoulders sagging slightly in defeat. "I've built this facade of strength. I know it's crumbling, but the thought of exposing what lies underneath terrifies me. What if I'm just not enough?" With a sudden surge of empathy, Alex stepped closer, his resolve enhancing with each word. "That's not true. We all have doubts. I think we've both felt inadequate at different times. But I believe we can rise above it. We can find strength in our truths, and that's the only way to move from here." Jake looked contemplative, yet the walls he had built around his emotions were beginning to show cracks.
I fear I want that, but it feels dangerous. Each revelation could tear me apart. Daring to reveal ourselves is the only way to rebuild, Alex replied, his voice unwavering. Let's share the deeper fears. Mine is the fear of not being seen as worthy of change. What's yours? Silence enveloped them again, this time richer, almost inviting. The room felt charged with expectation, every unspoken word a step toward catharsis. Jake's breaths grew heavy as he grappled with his choice, contemplating whether to plunge into discomfort. I fear disappointment, Jake finally admitted, shifting his weight nervously. Not just from others, but for myself. I'm terrified that once I dig too deep, I'll find more darkness than I can handle. The confession hung in the air like a charged wire, and Alex felt a visceral response, a wave of solidarity shifting between them. Then we dig together. We can pull each other up when it feels too heavy to bear. What's worth more, risking the discomfort of knowing, or remaining shackled by what we don't face? As Jake searched Alex's eyes, a flicker of resolve sparked. The gravity of vulnerability was a risk, but it also painted a possibility of liberation. Okay, let's do it, but I won't lie, it's going to be hard. I wouldn't have it any other way, Alex confirmed, his spirit invigorated. Let's start with the smallest fragments, those whispers that haunt us. As they began to unravel their stories, Alex felt a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration. With each shared confessional, he discovered hidden layers of himself, a depth he hadn't known was there, igniting an ember of potential that cast light on their interactions. The atmosphere began shifting from burden to empowerment as they exchanged memories. Alex marveled as Jake recalled forgotten dreams, moments of dark humor intertwined with grief. With every layer peeled back, Alex unearthed a strength within himself he had kept at bay. Yet as they journeyed through their pasts, a familiar uneasiness coiled in Alex's gut.
It was one thing to recall painful experiences, but what if confronting these shadows invited deeper threats? What if the consequences of their revelations went beyond mere discomfort? As he rode the edge of revelation, Alex's gaze flickered to Jake. There was a bond forming, but the true test awaited just beyond their current dialogue. "Promise me we'll stay honest, no matter how hard things get," Jake said, breaking his own hesitations, a newfound determination shining in his eyes. "Always," Alex replied, and a sense of solemnity washed over him. But even as they ventured further into their engagement, the shadow of unresolved tension loomed, pressing against the walls of newfound understanding. What awaited them as they continued to dig? Would their revelations lead to healing, or expose them to fears they had yet to confront? With a sharp intake of breath, Alex braced himself.
They were on the verge of something greater, and the stakes were rising higher. Would the next unveiling bring them closer, or would it splinter the fragile bond they had begun to form? The air around them felt electric, charged with the intensity of unspoken truths. Alex could sense that the next step would force both he and Jake into a realm far removed from their past patterns of silence. They were standing on a precipice, about to leap into vulnerability, and there was no turning back now. "Let's talk about the night we lost everything," Alex suggested, testing the waters. He dreaded recounting that painful evening, but knew it was necessary to unlock the cages they had built. The thought sent a chill down his spine. Revisiting such weighty memories ignited a deep-rooted fear of the emotional rupture that might ensue. Jake's eyes darkened, a distant look shadowing his face. "You'd really want to go there?" "It's where we began to hide. It's critical to understanding why we still hold back," Alex replied softly, his voice resolute. After a moment of heavy contemplation, Jake nodded. "All right, but let's promise to anchor ourselves, okay? We're not just dredging up pain, we're seeking clarity." Alex felt a rush of gratitude at Jake's willingness to face the storm together. "Deal." Jake cleared his throat, and for the first time he started to unravel the events of that harrowing night. "I remember the sound of sirens. My heart raced, everything fell apart. I was supposed to protect you. Do you remember how small we felt standing there, helpless?" "Yes," Alex replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it wasn't just that night. I've carried that loss like a brick." The heaviness of their shared grief enveloped them, but as Jake shared his experience, the honest expression of that night seemed to forge new connections instead of unraveling the remnants of their bond. "I always thought that losing it all meant I wasn't enough. I put that weight on you too. But now I see it wasn't just about us. It was the world around us, the expectations, the judgments. We chased approval instead of embracing the truth," Jake continued. "I never realized I was carrying your expectations alongside my own," Alex admitted, feeling a glimmer of understanding wash over him. "It's exhausting trying to be what everyone else wants." This admission deepened the conversation, as though they were peeling away the layers of their truths concurrently. There was discovery in their exchange. Jake unwillingly unearthed fears related to inadequacy, while Alex confronted the echoes of the past actions that held him captive. The painful memories morphed into revelations as they spoke. Every denial became an acknowledgement, a pathway forged toward healing. They were constructing a new reality, a bridge over the chasm of lingering shadows. "Can you believe we let fear dictate so much of our lives?" "I know I did," Jake said, shaking his head in disbelief. It's like we were all in our own cages, convinced we were safe. But now we're breaking out, piece by piece, Alex asserted, clinging to this newfound hope. The conversation shifted as unease started creeping back into the corners of Alex's mind, dark and insistent. What happens when the cages we break reveal something darker? What if our truths shatter this fragile place we've built? Jake's eyes mirrored the turmoil within Alex. "I guess that's the risk we have to take. But we can't let fear keep us silent. We owe it to ourselves to explore what lies beneath." And just as he rushed to respond, the door swung open with a sharp creak, and a familiar figure stepped into the light. The atmosphere thickened, and Alex's heart dropped. The past had returned in the form of someone he thought he'd never have to face again, Jake's older brother, Tom. "Mind if I join?" Tom's voice dripped with sardonic detachment, a stark contrast to the raw vulnerability that had just flourished between the two men. "Tom!" Jake's expression transformed from shock to anger, but remained tempered by hesitation. "Looks like family business is being discussed," Tom quipped, crossing his arms. Alex's pulse quickened, and a chill foreboding brushed against his skin. What would this encounter mean for all they were beginning to understand?
Would confronting Tom drive a wedge deeper into their fragile connection, or would it lead to an unexpected breakthrough? As a multitude of emotions surged within him, Alex realized the stakes had risen. Their dialogue could spiral into chaos, or perhaps it would open pathways they never anticipated. The next revelation loomed closer, beckoning him to confront an entirely different truth. The air thickened with tension as Tom stepped further into the room, and Alex felt his chest tighten in anticipation. All the emotional honesty fostered between him and Jake seemed precariously balanced on the brink of collapse. Is this really the best time for family drama? Alex asked, trying to inject a note of levity into the air, but his voice trembled, revealing his anxiety. Tom leaned against the wall, studying them with an unsettling smirk. You two were having such a deep moment, I thought I'd add a little spice. Jake shot Alex an apologetic look, an expression suggesting that they had already delved into unfamiliar depths together, and now this intrusion threatened to pull them back into chaos. An irritation boiled within Alex, and he fought to maintain a careful composure. Why are you here, Tom? Jake finally demanded, his patience waning. Why do you care? Tom shot back. This place isn't some safe haven. I've seen how the two of you keep circling around the truth. It's pathetic, really. A flicker of resentment ignited in Alex. He was acutely aware of his own shortcomings, but here was Tom, wielding his influence with a weapon against their burgeoning clarity. Pathetic? Every person has a past. We're just trying to confront ours.
Don't act as though you're immune to your own demons. For a moment, Tom looked thrown off kilter. The casual facade he usually wore slipped just slightly, revealing a glimpse of uncertainty. But it was fleeting, and his countenance hardened once more. Listen up, kid. It's easy to talk about facing demons when you haven't actually lived with them. As Tom spoke, anger surged within Alex, and he instinctively took a step forward. What do you mean by that? You think just because you're older you have a right to belittle us? It's our fear we're facing, not yours. Jake leaned in, a sense of urgency saturating his voice. We're not hiding anymore. You don't get to dictate our journey. Stay or leave, but don't stall our progress. Tom's eyes flicked between them, hesitation pooling in the depths. He had often been the aggressor, the one to deliver ridicule, the force against which they had to defend themselves. Yet Alex sensed something deeper, even if masked with arrogance. What if beneath that bravado, Tom was struggling as much as they were? You think facing your truths will make everything better? Tom's voice dropped, a measure of vulnerability surfacing. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes those truths can ruin you. Or they can free you, Alex shot back, steeling himself against the doubt creeping into his mind. You don't know what we've gone through, but if you've got your own burdens, maybe it's time you face them too. Silence hung heavy. The tension shifted. This wasn't just a confrontation about emotions. It had morphed into an exploration of shared vulnerability. It felt raw and unfiltered. Just as Alex absorbed the weight of what had been said, he caught a glimpse of a faint glimmer of awareness in Tom's eyes, hinting at an unacknowledged pain that connected them all. You're both naive, Tom finally said, his tone softer, almost begrudgingly admiring. Life isn't about finding ultimate clarity. You need strategy. You have to grasp the implications of your truths. Maybe we can figure it out together then, Jake ventured. But you need to drop this act. Show us who you really are. It's better than hiding behind contempt. A hesitation lingered as Tom seemed to weigh their words. The siblings were locked in a battle neither had anticipated. Suddenly the conversation was not merely about the past, but also about a potential bond forged out of shared suffering. What if the truths you uncover are worse than you expect? Tom's voice wavered slightly, betraying something he had kept buried. That question echoed like a challenge. Alex knew they were striving for healing, yet the notion of facing something darker haunted him. Just as he prepared to answer, they heard a faint sound, the crack of glass. Something shattered somewhere down the hall. His stomach turned as he looked at Jake, uncertainty flooding his thoughts. Was this the beginning of the end, or were they about to discover something that would change everything? A hidden legacy that spanned beyond their memories and fears? Let's find out, Alex finally declared, bracing himself for whatever lay ahead. In that moment, he sensed that the path they were on had shifted dramatically, connected by the fragile thread of their truths. But as they all exchanged tense glances, Alex could not shake the feeling that even greater revelations awaited them in the darkness ahead. What they would uncover, and how it would challenge everything they thought they knew, left a dizzying pit of apprehension in his stomach. As the echoes of the shattered glass faded into the hallway, Alex felt the tension thickening around them. This was the moment of reckoning, a culmination of fears, misunderstandings, and hidden legacies. But now it was time to confront them head-on. Let's not get derailed, Alex said firmly, his voice cutting through the uncertainty. We need to stay focused on uncovering our truths, not just for ourselves, but for those who have been lost in this tangled mess of family dynamics. With a collective inhale, Jake and Tom exchanged glances. The weight of their shared past seemed to coil tightly, urging them to dig deeper into emotions they had long left unexamined. Alex felt an unshakable resolve blossom within him. He was finally done with the shame that had dictated so much of his life. Tom, he addressed the older brother, bringing a fragile unity into their dynamic. You mentioned that facing truths could ruin us, but I think we have to ask ourselves, is living a life built on fear and silence truly better than the risk of finding clarity? What's at stake is too high. Tom's expression flickered, torn between defense and introspection. You're right, he conceded, his voice softer. Honestly, I've hidden behind my reputation of strength for too long. It's easier than dealing with the chaos inside. Seeing Tom's admission unfurl, a sensation of catharsis swept through Alex. This was a pivotal moment, not just for himself and Jake, but for Tom too. The flood of shared vulnerability was more potent than any confrontation. Let's face it together, Jake chimed in, stepping to the forefront, his shadows replaced by a flickering hope. The past is part of us, but it doesn't have to define our future. We can break the cycle, but we need to be honest about what we face. As they stood united, an anxious threat of anticipation hovered over the trio. In that moment, Alex realized that for once, he wasn't simply wrestling with the fear of confrontation. He was rooted in the strength of self-awareness and accountability. I remember my own struggles, Tom revealed, the facade slowly melting away. Wanting to protect you both, but always feeling inadequate, always fighting to be seen. That's why we're all here, Alex replied, heart pounding. Why don't we lay it all bare? Pain shared can't haunt us alone.
Here and now, we have the power to redefine our legacies. With an inhalation filled with courage, Alex recalled memories that had haunted him, the boy he was and the fears that once dictated his life. I lost hope in my family's name, saw only the darkness of the past. But I've come to learn that it's a story worth telling, because in that lie was the seed of resilience. We can rewrite what our families means to us, giving it new purpose. Jake nodded, bolstered by Alex's words, accessing his own fraught history. I always feared I'd lose everyone if I revealed my vulnerabilities, yet here we are, more united than ever. That same fear kept us chained. Tom pierced through the tension with a piercing yet vulnerable gaze. I have held my family's secrets for too long. Living in the shadow of an idealized brother kept me bound. Perhaps there's a way I can emerge, if you're willing to be there for me as well. As the weight of their shared narratives enveloped them, a profound shift settled. Alex felt a tranquility he hadn't known in years. A solid confidence enveloped him. They were weaving a tapestry of redemption, stitching together their scars into a gleaming piece of art that told a story of growth and understanding. As they shared deeper truths, the din from the past quieted, replaced with a resonant understanding of what they could build together. Together, they explored vulnerabilities, facing fears that had long been delayed in their confrontations. In the quiet aftermath, Alex felt an authentic sense of competence rise within him, a realization that he was shaping not only his story, but also helping Tom and Jake create theirs. As they broke down barriers, they breathed new life into what their family legacies meant, a stark contrast to the shadows they had once suffered in silence. With this unveiling, clarity emerged. Alex looked at Jake and Tom with a newfound admiration, acknowledging the strength forged through shared struggle. Together, we've transformed our pain into power, Alex declared, his voice steady. Let's honor our past by shifting gears into our own narrative, one defined by recovery and united ambition. The legacy wasn't just about their family's history, but about the courage they chose to demonstrate now. As they locked eyes, a sense of unity enveloped them, a force promising strength, hope, and a new lease on life. And so, from the remnants of their intertwined histories, a new chapter unfolded, a declaration of authenticity and a commitment to embrace their true selves moving forward. The silence that followed was profound, a promise unspoken. Each man had confronted their flickering fears, acknowledging their place in a legacy that no longer had to define them. This was the moment of transformation, a full-circle journey, where understanding emerged triumphant over betrayal and silence, guiding them toward a shared future.
The next dawn would encapsulate their journey. not merely illustrating remnants of the past, but paving pathways for profound change. Before stepping out together onto the horizon of uncertainty, a sense of closure washed over Alex. He had conquered the shadows. He had risen to stand upon a foundation of truth that would forever illuminate their intertwined stories. Make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a real difference. Don't wait even one more second. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspirational journey of transformation. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand how vital it is to support the channel through these actions.